Now, on Tuesday's video, I brought up one of my favorite quotes from the book The Kabbalion. Everything is and isn't at the same time. Reconciliation. And one of our deep desires is actually to reconcile. So when you share your opinions and your ideas with another person, and they share their responses, reflections, and contribution to those ideas, communication can be a very beautiful thing and a very beautiful experience, flow-inducing, when the realizations have reconciled certain perspectives that might have perplexed us, conflicting viewpoints and ideologies. I believe that holds the key to influential communication. Now, this idea is thousands of years old. It was actually said that in ancient Egypt dwelt the scribe of the gods, also inspired by Tuesday's video, Kabbalion, who would aim to reconcile divergent perspectives. Many would travel and have conflict. They wouldn't understand certain things, and when discussed, the goal was the reconciliation, making peace with it. So they'll say, oh, I understand. There's one way of doing things, and there's another way of doing things. And via the principle of polarity, there's a varying degree in which we find an equilibrium. Not only do we understand what it is that might have seemingly been in conflict through conversation, through communication, it also opens up portals to the mind, deeper levels of understanding and ability. Now we can call this the journey of self-realization and also the expression of it in innovation, in artistic expression as self-actualization. I invested a lot of time over the last few years during a time where many people were not in the presence of a lot of people. They were staying at home. They might not have had many people to contact with, may not even have nurtured many of the relationships as a result of what was going on over the last few years. But I was blessed through this channel to actually connect with thousands of people. We had phone calls, Zoom calls. I would travel, meet many people. And one of the things that I would find is everyone had this commonality, a genuine desire to find what was meaningful for them. We could say everybody was connecting back to their intuition. And many people discovered profound realizations and perspectives and ideas of how they believe reality to be. And some of these perspectives might have created conflict because they were letting go of certain belief systems, ideologies, ways of thinking. And they found true and distinct ways in which, through their own creative expressions, proved itself in equation. Entrepreneurs found distinct ways of running their business. Many discovered inherent artistic desires and began to express them. Many found new hobbies, or we could say revealed the hobbies that they genuinely wanted to express or partake in through a journey of self-realization in which I would say many had the opportunity to build this relationship with themselves further. And so what I saw, were many people sharing their perspectives, their ideas, their viewpoints, and so forth. And at times, it would appear as conflict and may even create some doubt in the person if they don't recognize that their distinct, unique perspective is valid. And so thus it's important to revisit some of the communication information. And we'll reflect upon it on 3 books. Number 1 is Influence the Psychology of Persuasion by Robert Cialdini, who also released a revised version and added another principle in there, which we'll also discuss. We'll also look at The Charisma Myth by Olivia Fox Cabane, and one of my classic favorite books, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, a classic. Now, I believe more so today than ever before, we have an opportunity to reconcile. And communication is one of the ways that we express the inner reconciliation. So the reconciliation actually happens in mind. So thus we tend to talk about it a lot from the perspective of mind, making peace within. And it's also important to reflect upon these books, which offer guides or ways of expressing our ways of thinking in which we don't feel conflict, in which we share our opinions, and then actually look at it from more of an accurate perspective, which is, let's share our opinions, our perspectives, our ideas, and recognize that there are many ways. Everything is and isn't at the same time. So in her book, The Charisma Myth, she says that there are 3 important aspects we want to keep into consideration that are important aspects that are found in, through varying degrees and combinations, when it comes to true charismatic communication. Many of us want to express confidently, charismatically, because we recognize the influence behind it, the nonverbal nature behind it, and its ability to, you could say, cause people to listen to us. But I would like to take this a step further and say the cause is within, and we are communicating more from a degree of self-persuasion that facilitates these 3 aspects. Number 1, power. Number 2, warmth. And number 3, presence. Power can be looked at as direction, seeing yourself as the cause. And thus, when communicating, you speak with the sense of direction. It doesn't necessarily mean words or specific words that you use, although they are facilitators. It also includes nonverbal communication from your own sense of direction, having direction. Number 2 is warmth. Altruistic, caring, benevolent. Important aspects to keep into consideration, because if someone is maybe more so on the direction and power side, they might find themselves talking at people rather than communicating and relating with people. As mentioned, over the last few years, I've found many have discovered distinct ideas, philosophies, ways of looking at reality that they want to continue to honor. And in a moment, we'll integrate some of the perspectives from How to Win Friends and Influence People to bring forth that warmth so that we can be more understanding to other people's opinions, viewpoints, etc., and sharing ours and having a harmonious dialogue to reconcile, as we had learned from the scribe of the gods, to reconcile. Third, we have presence. So this is sometimes referred to as being in the now, being deeply in flow-based conversations. Presence, being deeply engaged in the conversation. Now, as I'm talking about these communication aspects, see how you can apply this into your areas of communication. We live in a world today that is hyper-connected, and we're communicating in many different ways. We're communicating in person. We're communicating online. We're communicating in videos. We're communicating in text messages. We're communicating in groups, online, offline. Many different ways of communicating, and that's a beautiful thing. And when we're engaging in these communications, for whatever the reason may be, maybe you're in sales, maybe you're in leadership, maybe you're out to make new friends, to have masterminds, to share ideas, perspectives, insights. To really get the most out of our communication, we want to be present. So while we have many options, being more present in our communications help us tremendously in the process of self-realization and self-actualization. Very practically speaking, it also leads to influence. Because these 3 important elements here, having direction or specificity or really honoring who you really are within, allowing others to be also, which is warmth, combined together harmoniously in presence, is rich breeding grounds for influence. Now, here's the nuance behind this. Although we want to influence perhaps certain perspectives, ideas, and interpretations of what we have found, and we believe that it can be beneficial for others, it is also important to encourage others to discover their own pathway. Because otherwise, we might be too much on the power side. Not enough warmth, not enough presence. Now, I come from a background of direct response marketing, consultative selling, and copywriting, in which in different ways would emphasize these 3 points. The masters that I had met of direct response marketing, copywriting, consultative selling, in their own way, in their own communication style, would emphasize these 3 things. And so thus this is a great summary. And one of the ways to recognize when we're doing this is to observe, develop a degree of awareness during conversations, during our email messages, during any form of communication that we do. Do we have a sense of direction? While at the same time, are we practicing benevolence, understanding of another person's reality and how they see perspectives? There are infinity perspectives on any subject. And although a person might want to influence their ideology and their perspective, the nuance is those that listen and understand actually become more influential. People are more likely to consider different perspectives when they feel understood. We'll tie this in a moment to Dale Carnegie's work. And this is done through presence. Now, we want to gauge this. We want to have direction, while at the same time we want to be warm and understanding and present in our conversations. I promise you, you'll get better at it with practice. And so the way to practice this is to observe after each interaction. Did I have a sense of direction? Did I practice also listening attentively and being warm and considerate? It'll be apparent in the verbal and nonverbal communication of the individuals that you're communicating with. And could I have practiced a higher degree of presence? And here's the key. It's not being suggested to be biased over one side or another, and also we have our own ratios of this. Doesn't mean that you're 33.3% on each. We all have ratios, and depending on the different interactions and the different environments and other variables in relation to communication style, types of communication, relationships, etc., there are different ratios at play. But we do want to keep this into consideration because as over the years that I had been keeping this into consideration, I found that it was a lot easier to influence when it came to business decision. But here's the thing about it. I don't believe that I was influencing people to do what they didn't want to do. I believe in finding those or revealing those that are in harmonious relationship with your vision, your goal. In the entrepreneurial perspective, we see the relationship with the client as somebody who genuinely wants to be there to receive our benefit, our product or service, the benefits from the product or service, through fair mutual exchange. And what we want to do is maintain this power, presence, and warmth during the communication. We get better at it with practice, gauge ourselves, and calibrate accordingly. So Dale Carnegie shared many interesting perspectives. I put it in my own verbiage, and here are 6 keys that I got from the book, which we're going to tie into what was just mentioned: power, presence, and warmth. Number 1, letting go of condemnation. Accepting yourself. accepting your distinct ideas, viewpoints, and perspectives, and letting go of condemnation of others. We discussed this in our Neville Goddard discussion a few weeks ago. I'll put a link in the description to that. Number 2, express honest and sincere appreciation. We can relate that over to warmth. While we let go of condemnation and express honest and sincere appreciation through verbal and nonverbal cues, such as, "That's an interesting perspective. I've never heard that before. I'd like to know more about that." And genuinely be interested in it. And say, that interesting perspective could be something that I can further learn from and integrate. It's great that you had gone down a certain pathway and discovered this. I never went down this pathway to discover it. It's interesting. That's a form of appreciation for another person's reality, another person's pathway, another person's perspective on life. Number 3, be a good listener. Encourage others to talk about themselves. We can relate this over to warmth and presence. Show respect for the other person's opinions. Be sympathetic with the other person's ideas and desires, and be genuinely interested in other people. Very important. In a world where we all have discovered so much about ourselves, and certainly if you've been on this personal development journey, you found many ways that you found to be distinct and work well for you to produce the results or overcome challenges and so forth, which may be different than what other people have discovered. You already have the direction. And so now we can benefit from sharing our perspectives so that others can also benefit from it. And also, likewise, we benefit accordingly from the perspectives of others via the warmth and presence. See, one of the reasons why I always suggest making flow a priority is that when you're in flow, these things are automatic. So as we're discussing this, recognize that this is more about being who you really are rather than trying to do these things. I believe we're naturally like this. We naturally have distinct perspectives, direction. We naturally care. We naturally are interested in people. Notice this. When you're in flow, you seem to be more lighthearted, more at peace, more understanding. You actually notice that you have a high degree of presence. Now, there's a mutual benefit here because whoever you're interacting with, be it one-on-one or in group, the information is very beneficial for them and also very beneficial for you. And it could facilitate a deal in business. It could turn into a client, a business partner, a vendor. You could also make new friends, form masterminds, build relationships, and actually even encourage this way of being to inspire others to also do the same. As a matter of fact, I would suggest bringing these aspects up over here that I'm sharing with you, which has been a result of my experiences over the last few years, into your masterminds, into your leadership groups, into your organizations. Share it. So let's tie this into the 7 Principles of Influence by Dr. Robert Cialdini. Some of you might have come across this book, especially if you're in the space of copywriting, direct response marketing, consultative selling, a classic. Influence the Psychology of Persuasion by Dr. Robert Cialdini. When he released the original version, it had 6 principles of influence. And then over the course, the latest revision of the book, he released the 7th principle. So we're going to talk about this, which I believe the 7th principle is very much related to what we're discussing here. The principle of unity and where we're moving towards. You'll see this more so. And so the information contained within this video, which is really a result of my experiences and conversations that I've been having over the last few years, during a time where many didn't have as many conversations, is going to be more valuable today than ever before and will continue to facilitate these influential aspects in a harmonious way to bring forth a higher degree of reconciliation. See, I believe that everybody can genuinely live how they truly want to live. And I'm actually able to see it more so as I've worked in consulting and leadership and dealing with my things in my life as well, with friends, family. And these principles that were discovered, we're going to look at it from a certain perspective here, which is communication, which can be influential communication designed to facilitate, let's say, a buying decision or a idea exchange or something like that. Let's look at these. We got scarcity, reciprocity, liking, commitment, authority, social proof, and unity. I believe, and upon working with this information now, these are the effects. So in his book, he talks about how there's programming that exists within us that causes us to make quick decisions based on these aspects here. So those that are influential when it comes to communication tend to either consciously or unconsciously recognize these important elements and infuse it in their communication and communication style. Now, these aspects are going to play a big role as we move forward here and integrate this information to the degree of authenticity, which is the direction, as in your purpose, your mission, your information, the stuff that you want to share with others. Working with these principles here and tying it into power, presence, and warmth, and also the relationship to what we learned from Dale Carnegie's book, is extremely powerful and also authentic. Let's look at this. So scarcity. Generally speaking, we tend to value things that are rare. We tend to hold them to a higher regard. And so what ends up authentically expressing as a result of integrating this information here, developing a degree of harmony between power, direction, warmth, and presence, is you position yourself as somebody that is valuable. In a world perhaps where many people are more interested in convincing people as to their opinions, not practicing a high degree of warmth and presence, you stand out as an effective and influential communicator. The second principle ties in nicely to this, reciprocity. We naturally reciprocate value. Now, this is information that he's been studying for many years, and he's a professor of psychology and marketing at Arizona State University. I recommend reading his book and even the latest book that he released. He has invested a lot of time, a lot of research, and study into proving these principles in equation. And I believe that more so today, they are going to be valuable because we have so much information, and this information is presented to us even more rapidly, easier, faster than ever before. And so we rely on certain thinking patterns to formulate decisions unconsciously. So, number 2, reciprocity. We naturally reciprocate value. We have the tendency to reciprocate that value, exchange that value, buy the product or service, or to listen to what another person has to say so that we can also allow the other person to feel understood as they have allowed us to feel understood. So when a person shows up with warmth and presence and a direction which is designed to bring the conversation into a reconciliation and an understanding, and that becomes the frame, the premise of the conversation, and it facilitates a great experience for the other individual or the other individuals, they want to naturally reciprocate this. This is happening unconsciously. Liking. We enjoy being around those that we like. So let's tie this in together. Through the genuine development and expression of power, presence, and warmth, which are the aspects that she discovered in relation to charisma, we present ourselves and we express ourselves as the individuals who are the exception. And so thus we present value in that distinct and memorable conversation experience. And Those that we communicate with naturally want to reciprocate the value. They will consider what we have to say. They might even consider our products and services that we offer. And these are likable attributes. Those that have let go of condemnation, don't condemn others. If you have a conversation with somebody and they're sharing with you their personal reference experience and their beliefs and their perspectives of life, and we're sitting there and condemning them verbally and non-verbally, I don't believe that's a very likable attribute. And so to be more likable authentically, we want to let go of the condemnation and have a sincere appreciation for a person's path, their reality. This automatically facilitates the presence, which brings forth the good listening skills. Automatically encourages, because we're genuinely interested. None of this stuff is designed to be tactical. This is the essence of true, authentic communication, spirit of harmony-based communication. Now, when we get the scarcity, the reciprocity, liking, doesn't necessarily have to be in this order. It also stimulates commitment. Momentum is built through commitment and consistency. People want to deal with you more often. And what happens is that he found that when we meet individuals that we deal with and we have pleasant experiences, we're more likely to deal with them again and again and again. So if you're in the entrepreneurial space, we think about referrals or ongoing business from the clients. When we have a harmonious relationship with presence, power, warmth, and many different ways of applying this, so I'm going to keep this more general so we can reflect upon it. I'd like you to do it as well. How does it apply for your areas of communication? And you could apply this for entrepreneurship. You could apply this to relationships. You can apply this to personal life, whatever you want. There are parallels and there's relatability for this information in all areas. So what happens then is people commit to us and they're more likely to stay consistent on that commitment because they value you. They recognize that you are a person that is consistent in this way of being, and that's important to them. And maybe they don't experience that very often in their life. That's a scarce experience for them. And so that they tend to move towards you and even prioritize you in their life. This is what you'll find. So now this also stimulates authority. So one of the reasons why a person would want to develop, or we could say, as we've been realizing this, it's inherent within us, express that inherent charisma, is because we come off as being more authoritative or influential. People love to be heard. Reference experience. We all have reference experience in our life. Look at your life, and maybe you might not have considered this before, but all your life experiences have taught you valuable things, and people genuinely want to learn from your experiences. There was a time in my life where I didn't believe this to be true until I started meeting people that would want to ask me about my experiences in life in certain regards, career, entrepreneurship. Generally, I would say more so in entrepreneurship because I invested a large part of my life in it because it was a very important area for me. But it took me a while to actually accept that, look, I have the experience. I have many stories and experiences that taught me many things. And actually, each one of those stories I could reflect upon and pull out even more insights, perspectives, understandings, ideas, ways of doing things that could benefit others. So we tend to listen attentively to those that we perceive as authoritative. And one of the best ways to be the authoritative figure nowadays, what I'm finding more so than ever before, because we're talking about authentic authority. So what has changed a lot more today, at least this has been my experience. Maybe it's different for others, I'm not sure. But from my own experience and research and working with others, people can see through inauthenticity. And they genuinely tend to connect and resonate more with those who are authoritative at an intuitive level. True authenticity-based authority. And it's facilitated by these things here. So these are guides. These are ways of calibrating ourselves. We want to ensure that we're incorporating this. We get better at it with practice. And all of this is designed to bring out, to actually express from within, we're inherently like this. We're inherently like this. If you notice that children happen to have direction, they happen to be naturally warm, naturally present to what they're doing, because they genuinely want to be there. Whatever it is that they're doing, they're genuinely there because they want to be there. And so if we genuinely want to be relatable with each other and connect with each other towards a mutual benefit, spirit of harmony, benefit for us, benefit for others, benefit for divine and evolution, if we genuinely want to do this, then we can practice recalibrating back to this, because for whatever the reason may be, we've identified perhaps with certain thinking patterns in which we forgot these things. So social proof. Now keep into consideration, these unconscious responses are actually transcendent through experience in life. So a person gets a higher degree of discernment in regards to if they're reacting to someone that they perceive to be authoritative and question it. They say, maybe before I automatically did, but now I have the ability to discern. Same is to be said about social proof. We want to ask ourselves, are we looking around to see what other people are doing and making decisions based on it because everyone else is doing it? Or are we really following our intuition? Now, what's interesting is that this ties in very nicely to unity, and he made a distinction in an interview that I watched in which he calls unity actually a sense of belonging. When you live this way more so in whatever endeavor that you work with this information with, you'll actually generate the social proof. You'll have more people that listen to you. If you have a YouTube channel or you have an Instagram account or any kind of social media, or even if you don't have an online presence, and I know many entrepreneurs, they're very well known in their communities, in their cities, but they have no social media presence. And many people in their communities respect them as authoritative, commit to them with consistency. They like them. They reciprocate value with them. And they value them as someone that is distinct, has a distinction. And so they go to them specifically. Again, applying the principle of scarcity. Go to them specifically for certain challenges that they're having. But the reality is that as a person lives this way, they express themselves, they allow themselves to express, while also being relatable with others, aiming for that relatability and understanding other people, practicing presence and these other aspects here, they will automatically find that their influence will grow. There will be more people that talk about them in a positive way, more people that will refer business clients and so forth. They'll get more of that. And so now this ties into an important aspect, which he added into his revised version of the book: unity, belonging. So that's what we really want. We want to feel like we belong. Now, as we've been discussing with our mind stuff, we see ourselves as complete within. We recognize that the true source of belonging really is completion within. As in, I see myself as belonging. I belong. And everywhere I go, I belong. Now, when a person lives like that, from that internal assumption, internal belief, they automatically express the power. Because they genuinely feel like they belong, they don't put on an act or a persona. They don't condemn others, and so they automatically have the warmth. And they're genuinely fascinated by the infinite potentialities of mind, recognizing that each person goes on a journey of exploring the mind. And they find different things and different ways of looking at reality. And they have faith that they can reconcile it because they have already reconciled, or the reconciliation is a continuum, we could say, within themselves, because they belong in their inner world. One of the things that I talk about a lot is we're safe in mind. And I learned this from the book, The Kabbalion. It said, in the father-mother mind, all mortal children are at home. Now, this was so meaningful for me because I said, if I can be safe in my mind, if I could feel home in my mind, then I can actually reconcile certain conflicting ideologies and perspectives in my mind. And thus I can further be inspired by some arcane wisdom from the scribe of the gods, who always was able to reconcile. So that's it. We're on this journey to reconcile within ourselves first, and it expresses itself through these things. And then what it does is it brings forth this unity, way of being. You'll notice this. To the degree that we unify within ourselves our own conflicting ideologies, and I discussed this all throughout the videos. We call this limiting beliefs, interpretation in regards to ourselves, others, people, environment, circumstance, information. We actually feel a higher degree of belonging in mind, which then expresses itself. So we can see here these 7 principles of influence, the 3 aspects of charisma, and these key insights here that I've gathered and reflected upon from Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, are actually an effect of an authentic way of being. And I believe that this is more important today than ever before. Because as I mentioned, and I've had many conversations, I've seen this over the last few years, more people have connected to how they really are and are living how they truly want to live. And this may have brought forth a lot of conflict and communication in some shape or form. But one of the reasons why this is happening is because we generally want to feel that sense of belonging. And I believe that that's where we're moving towards, the unity. And all these aspects here become an authentic expression of that unity or belonging within. When you feel complete, that you belong within, that your mind is infinite and you can explore it and express the creative endeavor, the artistic expression, the innovation, the entrepreneurship, products, services, whatever it is. Play out the theatrical journey of entrepreneurship, my product and service for their compensation, fair value exchange. We'll notice that these things are authentic. A person automatically values communication and lives from the premise of the 3 aspects of charisma. And this is an ongoing journey. We certainly get better at it with practice. And by meditating upon this information and integrating it more so, we see the changes more so every day. So I trust you found this video to be helpful and beneficial for your journey as you develop yourself, or as more accurately put, reveal that you already are an influential communicator. You already are it. And what you're doing is you're allowing yourself to express it more so because you know what you want. And more so every day you get clear on your vision. Thus you have, to higher degrees every day, direction, purpose. And all we do is allow. We could see warmth and presence. We can sum it up as allowing. So let's tie this all together into an auto-suggestion to integrate. We can say, I recognize that within myself, I have distinct, unique perspectives that are my ways of doing things that offer direction to my life and inspire others to do the same. Through the process of being, I inspire others via my warmth and presence and understanding of who they are and their version of this. I expressed honest and sincere appreciation for them encouraging their inner voice and intuition. I listen and understand, and through the understanding and listening, these form deeper connections within myself, further inspiring being the way that I truly am. As a result, I'm genuinely interested in other people. I recognize I always was genuinely interested in other people. I allow it to express more so. Through the process, I am seen in all my distinction as memorable, valuable, recognizing that fair value exchange is a way of being. Through the process, I develop a higher degree of unity and belonging within, which translates to a higher degree of liking and expression of authority, which brings forth those that are in harmony and in contribution to my vision, who also inspire others to do the same, thus spreading the message of distinction in a way that inspires others to find their own distinction in the spirit of harmony. I recognize this represents true authority, and the authority is found within, and each individual that I interact with on the journey to realizing my vision encourages me to express my internal authority as I inspire and encourage others to do the same. If you would like a copy of this mind map, the link is in the description. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.